Hi, thanks for streaming onto this live meditation session. And before I jump onto actually meditating, I want to talk about a very important topic, which is very dear to me, which is good drug versus bad drug. To actually begin with, what exactly is a drug? I mean, it's debatable because drug is defined as something which has very little nutrition value and which is intaken using various method, like could be snorted out, could be consumed while in a mixture of drink, or could be used as a patch, or I mean there are different ways or to intake a drug. But what exactly is a good drug versus bad drug, and uh, how would you differentiate between one or the other? I actually fall somewhere in the middle when it comes to good drug versus bad drug, because I think anything which you consume in moderation could be good for you. The right thing to do is find that moderation, find that balance. And that's where a lot of people have difficulty, including me. And uh, arguably, the drugs kind of incite some sort of chemical change within your body, and it could be induced with the natural hormones which your body produce, or it could be induced by hormones or chemicals which are not natively produced by your body. And there are a lot of arguments about what is good and what is bad, and I am not here to define what is good drug or bad drug, but rather I want to talk about what is a good drug for me versus bad drug for me, because like I said, every one of us are different. So what could be a good drug for me could be really fatal drug for you. So you want to make sure that you are aware of your uh, body and how it functions, and that's where meditation sort of comes into picture as well, to get the feedback from the body and to realize what exactly is a good drug for you. So, taking a step back, you can argue that caffeine, tobacco, alcohol, different strains of psychedelics, uh, cocaine. Uh, I mean, I can go on, and there are like so many opium. There are like so many different type of drugs, and what exactly is a good amount, if any, for you? That's something which you have to figure out for yourself for sure, or with the help of your physician. But one thing I noticed is there are in a in a way, anything which you intake, like your food, could be acted as a drug. So if you don't believe me, try eating a bunch of different chilies and see how heated your entire body gonna become, and how you would be able to do different tasks, if your entire body is burning. So arguably that's a drug as well. And likewise, one of the fatal drug which I consider as fatal is sugar. And you can actually see research after research how sugar is devastating to different bodies, or pretty much all the bodies. Because if you think about it, back when we were hunters and gatherers, we used to consume sugar in very low quantity, and that too in a seasonal uh, time frame. So basically, when you see summer, and in summer season, and a lot of fruits kind of fruited out, then that's the core period when you consume sugar. And during the off period, you're off sugar. So uh, your body is kind of sort of designed to treat sugar as a scarcity food. So when you consume sugar in today's day and age, day and age, you are actually telling your body to store that sugar as an extra fat, and hence a lot of people are becoming fatter and obese. So arguably, sugar is the most fatal drug which exists in today's day. Um, and I think a lot of other drugs in moderation does help your body to experience different sensations and experience different level of consciousness. So if you drink coffee, then you might get that caffeine effect where it could help you to focus on a specific task for a period of time. And and that's the reason why people keep on consuming coffee throughout the day, because they want to get that focus and perform, or be productive, so to speak. I personally don't consume coffee. It works for me at times, but I'm not a regular coffee drinker. So I drink once in a while. That too, it kind of depends on my mood, or if I'm like in social environment, which is kind of strange, because most of the people drink alcohol when they're in social environment. Uh, but if I'm in party, I do that too. But with caffeine, it's a productivity drug. On the other end, tobacco in the form of cigarette or cigar or other forms are also arguably a productive drug. The problem is when people do get addicted to these drugs. The When people are addicted to coffee, tea, tobacco, and other various accepted drugs, alcohol obviously is one of them. But there are drugs which are non addictive at all, at least not physically addictive. So you won't see that caffeine withdrawal, you won't see that agitation to go and take a smoke break, or you won't feel that internal drive to go and take a drink. And those drugs are ironically uh, kind of listed as Schedule 1 in US, which are obviously psychedelics. Uh, I am a good, not good. I'm a big advocate of psychedelics because I think psychedelics help people to realize a lot of things in general, because I myself has experienced a drastic change in my lifestyle after consuming psychedelic. And to be honest, the psychedelic has been consumed by our civilizations for what, thousands of years. You can find some or the other type of psychedelic in different cultures, and which are not even connected in any ways. For an example, the soma in Indian culture or Hindu culture, the somras is assumed to be a type of psychedelic. It could be a mushroom, which is what I lean towards, a psychedelic mushroom, of course, or it could be some other type of variant of psychedelic, which actually expands the consciousness and make you aware of different sensors within your body. If you look at it, our body is a sensing device. Without the sensors, we won't be able to understand the reality at all. So if you don't have eyes or some way to detect the light, then you will be technically you'll be blind, but also you won't be able to function in a lot of sense. Uh, and likewise, if you take away the sense uh, to kind of recognize or realize the sound, then you won't be able to figure out who's around you and trying to kill you or something back in the day. So all of these sensors play a very vital role when it comes to your survival. Without eyes, you can't see who might attack you at any time. Without ears, you might not hear, or you definitely won't hear what could be, a predator just walking or running very close by. Likewise, there are kinesthetic senses with which you can sense different vibrations. It could be a vibration which carried through wind, or it could be a vibration uh, carried through different materials. Like uh, if you just try touch a specific metal, you might feel the vibrations through that metal. So, to give you an example, so all of these sensors play very, very vital role. And when I consumed psychedelic, I feel like my senses are also expanded, and I can see things which I normally wouldn't. I can feel things which I normally wouldn't. And that gives me a different perspective at my life at large. And again, like I said, there are no good drugs or bad drugs, so to speak. There is good balance or bad balance, and if someone is addicted mentally or physically to any of these drugs, it's a very darker place to be, and it would take forever to come out of it. And that's why a lot of people go to rehab to kind of establish a new pattern in their life, so that they can get rid of that addictive pattern or addictive uh, addiction for a specific substance. And it's interesting because a lot of the hormones could be produced internally as well, which are also addictive, like the dopamine rush. So every single time you go on social media or on internet at large and look at a story which kind of excites you, arouses you, that is a dopamine rush, and that itself is addictiveness from within. So basically, is that a good drug? Is that a bad drug? Where does it stand? Because social media or internet at large act as a funnel to your brain, so that it can create dopamine and give you that pleasureful experience. And if you keep on continue to do that, you gonna become addictive to social media or any kind of consumption. So, what exactly is a drug, right? Because it could be something which could be produced from inside. It could be something which could be intaken from outside. And where exactly would you draw a line? So it's kind of a very interesting topic to dive into in the first place. And I think, like I said earlier, everyone have a different threshold for each and every type of drug. And I believe in a society where we want everyone to be able to experience anything they want, and should be free enough to experience anything they want with their body. I think the drugs should be made legal or decriminalized at the very least, because people who go through or experience through different drugs are seeking something in some sense, right? If you're drinking a coffee, you want that focus. If you're drinking tea, you want that focus. If you are drinking alcohol, you want to minimize the chattering in your brain. And arguably, when you meditate for a longer period of time, you're producing different hormones within your brain, which are making you calmer and soother. I believe that people should make these choices for themselves, what are right for them, what are wrong for them. And I personally have a lot of different experience on various drugs. So, for an example, with coffee, it doesn't work for me as much as, say, lion's mane mushroom coffee, which is extracted of lion's mane mushroom. And I've seen that my focus is better when I consume lion's mane versus when I consume coffee. And likewise, I experienced a different level of awareness when I'm meditating versus when I'm uh, experiencing ayahuasca or psilocybin mushrooms or acid or some other sort of psychedelic. So these are all different uh, types of drugs, so to speak. So the question which is in my mind is what exactly is a drug, and can I ever get rid of all the drugs from my life at all? And the answer to that is no, because I believe that food is a type of drug. There are foods which create different hormones within my body, which I naturally cannot produce, and those hormones are give me a different experience. Like I said earlier, if I'm consuming hot peppers, it's gonna create this burning sensation within my body, and that could drive me to do things. If, for an example, if I'm super lazy, I could just consume some hot, spicy food, and automatically I could see a surge of energy within my body, which will drive me to do something and, in some sense, um expend my energy in different form. So again, the question is, what is good drug and what is bad drug? So when it comes to bad drug, I believe there are levels. First of all, there are drugs which I would never want to try, uh, just because of its addictiveness nature. Like cigarette, I would never smoke a cigarette because I'm not even. I don't even want to smoke a cigarette, and I've seen enough friends and family kind of addicted to cigarette that they cannot survive. When I say survive, it's obviously exaggerated, but they become kind of agitated if they haven't smoked for a long time. And I don't want myself to be in that situation. I see myself as someone who can adapt to various situations and circumstances, and in a way, I'm non attached to. I'm not attached to any specific situation, and that's where also meditation comes into picture and plays a very vital role, because especially with vipassana, which has an underlying message of temporariness of everything. So every single situation is temporary. Every experience is temporary. Every sensation which you're experiencing right now is temporary. Your pains are temporary. Your happiness is temporary. Everything in this world is temporary. So when or if I consume any bad drug, and if I'm trapped into that addictiveness, that addictive nature gonna last only for a few minutes or a few hours or maybe for days, but then again I'm hooked onto it and I'll be consume it again. So that's one of the things which I don't like. That's why I try to uh, be mindful of what I'm consuming, and at times I acknowledge that there has been few instances when I give in and just keep consuming, but once I'm conscious and aware back again, I try to cut down onto that, um, and that could be anything for that matter, right? And I believe more and more people would need these drugs, so to speak, because right now, a lot of us are trapped into this rat race of just, working 9 to 5 or handling some of the responsibilities which are sort of we inherited because of our family and friends and jobs and whatnot. And I believe that a lot of people are addicted to those functions in some sense, and sometimes consuming drugs like psychedelics give you a break and shows you that you're not just here to be a data point. You're more than just a data in someone else's book. You're not just a number in a government's book. You're not just a number in some company's book. You are more than that. You're a human. You are experiencing this life for a very limited point of time. And that gives a different level of awareness to how you look at the time, or at least how I started looking at the time. Because no matter what, even if I work 9 to 5 for entire life, which gonna be what, next 30 years or so, how satisfied would I really be? Is that really something which I want to do? If not, then what exactly I want to do? I mean, these are some of the hard questions which everyone has to face at some point. A lot of people goes through that during their midlife crisis because once they're past their 40s or 50s, then they try to figure out what the hell are they doing with their lives. And at that point, you can see people acting really strange because they get this different level of awareness, right? So if they figure out they are 50 and they're going to live only for next 20, 30 years, and then they probably going to spend their money or spend their energy into doing things which they always wanted to do. But the best thing about psychedelics is it give you that awareness ahead of time, or at least in my case. So I'm gonna be very, 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 very clear. I'm not uh, advocating anyone to consume psychedelics because those are very, very potent drugs, and it's not for everyone. So if you haven't even heard about psychedelics, then definitely it's not for you. Uh, but the older civilizations, the earlier civilizations have been using psychedelics as a medicine. And there is a good reason for that because these substances actually help you to, again, give you a new perspective to life and at the same time also clean out your system. There are different type of drugs. For an example, ayahuasca, in my experience, clean out the entire system in the form of diarrhea or purging, So by the time you come out of that experience, you're lightweighted and you understand that, you, or at least in my case, I understood that I have to take more cleaner foods and drugs into my system than just following the norm of this society. Examples, sugar. After going through ayahuasca experience, I cut down my sugar drastically and I can see the change in my life as well. I'm not like very addictive to sugar. Uh, Back when I was in India, I used to eat so much sweet, and well, I was freaking fat as well. I'm still kind of fat, but that beside the point. I feel like I have uh, moved on to a healthier life choices. And I believe that every one of us have that capability to figure out what is the good drug and bad drug, and or what is the good quantity of any drug for us. So if anything is not helping you in within your life and it's making your life miserable, so to speak, it's definitely is a bad drug. To give you an example, I actually play this game called Clash Royale, right? And plenty of times when I'm playing it, and if I'm on a losing streak, which is, I lose more than 3, 4 times in a row, I get frustrated and angry. And at times in the past, at least, I threw my phone, which was not a good move, but it was a spare phone. So even though the screen crashed, it's all right. It wasn't a huge deal. But The point being that I'm not even consuming any drug at that point, right? And that experience alone is causing this frustration and anger within me. And that made me take an action which, in some sense, I regret. So imagine what actions you're taking right now because of the drugs and the foods you're consuming, and how it's affecting your body. There's a very good research on how your gut biome, there are bacteria within your gut, within your stomach, which actually helps you to digest the food. And if those bacteria are not helpful bacteria, if it's more harming bacteria, then it will actually drive you um, to consume food which they like in some sense. So basically, if you are a heavy consumer of fast food, then your gut biome is filled with this bacteria who crave on fast food. And every single time when you drive past a fast food center, you automatically get that craving to consume that fast food. So it's a never ending cycle. And that's where some of the drugs can play a very vital role to break that cycle and help you to analyze what new cycle or new pattern you want to create, whether it comes to food or other things as well. So, uh, I believe that all the drugs should be legalized and regulated, of course, so that people who want to experience a specific type of drug can go through in a very secure way under the, let's just say, under the I'm blanking on the word, but with different medical, personnel. So basically, if someone want to experience a psychedelic, and if they goes through a medical personnel, a doctor who's overseeing their experience, it's very likely that they would be able to make much more uh, improvement or much more progress with their specific situation. You can actually see this happening in real time right now because John Hopkins University, they are creating, they already are running this program where they induce MDMA to various patients who have a traumatic experience in their life. That could be traumatic because of wars, like a lot of military people who come back from war zone, they go through this PTSD. It could be a traumatic experience because of something happened within their life. It could be a trauma of physical abuse. It could be a trauma of domestic abuse. It could be trauma of any emotional abuse as well. So basically, the substances like MDMA help out a lot of these people to see the bigger picture, and get out of that negative cycle, or the trapped cycle of thoughts, and give a break to that, and so that people can see things from a broader perspective and analyze what they want to do with their life. And I cannot think of anything nobler than this. If you are helping people to come over their trauma, physical or emotional, and helping them to be more authentic in this limited time they have, what could be nobler than that? And one of the other means of achieving that is by being mindful and practicing meditation. It gives you the same, I would not say same, but it takes you to the similar place. Obviously, every experience is different. Even two psychedelic experiences are different, and so are two trance forming meditation experiences are also different. But the point I'm making is that meditation is a non in drug inducing method to kind of look at the bigger picture of life. And out of all the meditation practices, definitely Vipassana is one of them which I resonate with a lot, because, it's just sitting here with my eyes closed and just observing my natural breath and body sensations. Whereas in other practices, either chanting or focusing on a specific deity or a specific, point of reference, that also is meditative practice, but it's adding something to what reality actually is. Because in Vipassana, when you're sitting here and just observing your breath and sensation, you're not adding anything to it. If anything, you're just experiencing the reality in the most truest form. And I hope that every one of you who's watching this video at some point check out Vipassana meditation technique and practice it for at least 15 minutes a day. And probably journal it down, document it in some shape and form to see the changes that meditative practice is bringing within your life. And if you can't do that because of whatsoever reason, then at the very least, consider being mindful in the moment. And you can be mindful at any place, which is the best part of being mindfulness. One of the best place where I like to be mindful is on the stage, hands down. When I'm standing in front of people with holding a mic and trying to entertain them, trying to make them see the humor in the world, and at that time there is this subtle layer of awareness, which is which is very, very in some sense uh, addictive as well. That's why a lot of people want to be on stage all the time, every single time, because it's like it's like being the center of attention. Like you're literally being center of attention, where a lot of people have their eyes just on you, and you can speak up your mind, you can be more authentic, and you can be aware of the silence, you can be aware of the slightest noise in the room. Or I've been in those places where I'm aware of my entire body, like, the way I'm moving my hand, the way I'm expressing my words, the way I'm uh, looking at different people, different audience, and I can see if they are with me or if they lost me, or if they are enjoying my bit, or if they are, doesn't give a shit about my bit. So that itself is a huge, huge, I would say, addictive drug in some sense. But just being mindful at different places can help you uh, to to become more aware. To Well, that by definition, mindfulness mean you becoming more aware, but be more authentic as well. So that being said, I will be meditating for an hour using Vipassana technique. And it's already 7:39 p.m. here. So I am gonna set an alarm for an hour. And before that, I actually have to take care of a couple of things. So I'll be back in a quick minute. I'm sure you might have heard that I was peeing. And sitting for an hour without peeing would be very, very distractive. So, yeah, before practicing any of this meditative techniques, make sure that you are getting rid of all the distractions, including clearing your bowel movement. All right, so with that note, I am gonna get started. I'll see you in an hour. Hey, I hope that you enjoyed this session. Just watching at me for an hour. But I hope you give a try to some sort of meditation and mindfulness and see the changes within your life and stay peaceful.